Hello and welcome back to another video in the world of Monster Hunter. Today is all about another build video, and this is my Taroth Assault support video, or as I'm calling it, the support Pierce. Now this is actually a build that I'm absolutely proud of. I am a Heavy Bowgun main and I love Pierce Heavy Bowgun. I'm aware they are nothing compared to what they used to be. I want my Gravios Giga Cannon back. I really want it. Anyway, yes, I'm aware Pierce is very iffy. Depending on what you're fighting, you get different numbers, and generally speaking, if you want to go for some form of non-cluster, non-sticky Heavy Bowgun, a lot of people would always suggest Glutton, but there are a few situations where Pierce does win out. And depending on how you want to look at it, Pierce is OP just simply because it can KO, it can stagger, and it can break parts pretty darn easily, especially in single player. It does just generally melt monsters that are particularly susceptible to Pierce, such as Nergigante, which is quite fun. Basil's another one. Xeno'jiiva is a really fun one to use Pierce against, especially when he does his blue Super Saiyan. It really does work quite well. Now if you are watching this video and you're like, oh, this build's not actually too bad, I wonder what other build videos he's done, don't worry about it, don't watch them. I've basically got to redo all of them because since Draken's come out, the Behemoth armor, so much has swapped around and pretty much all of my previous build videos are now null and void and are not worth it. So I'll be getting back round to some of them at some point. Now into other news, this build does have a little bit of a catch-22 situation. See, if you've actually looked up the meta Heavy Bowgun Pierce builds, you'll notice that this build isn't actually too dissimilar. However, I have dropped, it's going to sound weird, I have dropped 1 damage per tick of Pierce level 3 for the ability to heal more effectively to get peak performance up and running quicker. So technically you could argue over the course of the hunt you're going to do more damage because you have peak performance up and active more often. You have more uptime on your skills, as it were. However, on the flip side to this, I am not running a Mind's Eye duel, which is for me personally my biggest flaw, particularly when you use this build solo, because I'm using a damage up long range mod instead of close range mod, because I would generally use this build in multiplayer, which means if you know your distancing, it's not too hard to get the correct distance on a monster, and you're able then to optimize your overall damage output. Now the second catch-22 to this, well, the third really, damage drop, Mind's Eye. The third one is, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but if you actually look at the capacity per magazine, you might notice it is 6 rather than 8, which means I am not using free element / ammo up. And the reason for this is quite simple. Firstly, I do understand that the less time you spend reloading, the more time you have on uptime of damaging the monster. Less reload equates to more damage, but it doesn't actually change your damage or your bullet count overall, essentially. Secondly, from what I've noticed, particularly when playing in a group, doesn't really showcase here, particularly even, well, with Val, he's very easy to flinch, so you can do enough to lock him in place, just flinching him constantly. So I don't really have to move around too much, so in which case, particularly against Val, ammo up would be handy. But against something like Nergigante, like you saw in the previous clip, I'm constantly moving, having to run around in a circle, putting the weapon away, getting the weapon back out, which then causes a reload. Ammo up in those situations, personally for me, I see no benefit. So they are the 3, I suppose you could argue, issues. 1, I'm not running Mind's Eye Ballistica for the shorter optimized distance on damage. Secondly, I have dropped a little bit of damage for what I would believe to be more optimization. And thirdly, I do not have ammo up. I am sorry. Anyway, let's move on to the armor and skills. You may notice a slightly different layout. This comes from honeyhuntersworld.com. Honey has allowed me to showcase her website using my build, so hopefully this makes things a little bit more clear cut for you people to see exactly what's going on. It gives you the numbers, etc, etc, and I do recommend going down to Honey Hunter's World. There is a link in the description below. Anyway, onto the actual build. As you can see, the cool Taroth support, and we have a health augment in with a pierce decoration, the Nergigante helm alpha with a medicine decoration in, cool Taroth beta with flawless and yet another medicine decoration in, the Draken alpha gloves with tenderizer and flawless decorations in, the Empress beta waist with 2 critical jewels in, and the Dante alpha boots with 2 attack decorations in, and finally an attack charm 3. And overall what this will give you is attack boost level 7, critical boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, maximum might level 3, stun resistance, always handy on a heavy bowgun, critical eye level 2, tool specialist level 2, it's a lovely side effect and it does help you get your mantles back up quicker, recovery up level 2, peak performance level 2, and pierce shot level 1. This build has a grand total of 100% affinity, assuming you're hitting those weak points, and the EFR is 316.4, where the total ETR is 379.68. Pierce shot for pierce shot, you will be doing 27 damage per tick, which is 1 damage below the current meta, which has 28 damage per tick. But due to the medicine jewels, you're able to heal a little bit quicker to get peak performance that much more active. Now on the bowgun itself, I have a shield mod, a recoil mod, and a long range mod. If you are pro at dodging, feel free to swap out that shield for a close range, just to try and help optimize those moments where the monster is actually on top of you. Now some of you might be wondering why I have gone with the medicine jewels, and it's actually quite simple. With the use of medicine jewels, depending on where you hit, if you take a block on the shield, it will take 2 to 3 pierce shots at good angles, so hitting roughly optimized damage against, or this will be monster to monster. If it's basal, it literally just takes 1 bullet and you're back to full health, but you can get back to peak performance pretty darn quickly. Not to build bash, but the current meta build will take you about 5 or 6. And that's if you actually put a shield mod on that build, because it doesn't come with one. So optimally, damage wise, it only falls ever so slightly behind in an instance, but I am hoping that with this build, for those that are potentially entering the heavy bowgun world, this is definitely what I would argue a very good starting point, and it also works absolutely beautiful late game. You do need to watch your positioning with this build, as the closer the monster gets to you, the less damage you'll be doing, simply because you don't have Mind's Eye. And like I said, I am using a shield augment. If you feel you don't need it, you can put a close range mod on, just to try and help to optimize those close range fights. As you can see, I'm constantly always trying to back away from the monster, just to try and up my DPS. With a close range mod that and Mind's Eye, that won't really tend to be the case. So there are definite flaws with this build, I won't lie. However, I do tend to play this build particularly in more multiplayer circumstances, where it's easier to get my positioning and where I've only got a 1 in 4 chance of getting pinged by the monster. So for a multiplayer setup, I would definitely argue that mine potentially is better, but then, you know, it's my build, I would always argue that anyway regardless. However, on a more solo play, I would definitely currently take a look at the current meta build, but I do feel that my build is a very good start, and it's definitely worth a try, perhaps a bit of a look. And if you're one of those people that like to use the old mega demon drug and demon powders, you can hit up to 35 per tick, which yet again is still only 1 behind the current meta build. So, you know, It's all about the math. Anyway, that is me. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope this build helps. I'm really, really proud of it. And I hope to see you guys pretty soon. Good luck, have fun, don't die.